Everyone, Ham for the win here. It's been a few days since I did a unboxing of the HP Reverb G2, so I thought today I would just give you some of my brief thoughts on what it's like having used this now on a few different games and give you my first impressions. Alright everyone, this is going to be quite a rough video. I'm just going to sort of check out some of my thoughts. I've got some of the notes up in front of me here in case I forget what main points I want to talk about, and I may do some rough editing, so let's just see how it goes. So first of all, I pre-ordered the G2 on launch day, pre-order day, which was back in July, and I paid the pre-order price of $529. Now it did arrive earlier this week, and just to know, I paid for this myself, so I've not been given this for free. These are all my own opinions, but I just thought I'd tell you what I've thought about the unit so far and how I feel about it. So first of all, I'll start off with the positives. So the resolution and the clarity on this thing are brilliant, and this was the main reason why I pre-ordered the G2 back in July. Having owned the Index for some time now, I was never quite happy with the clarity, and having tried the Rift S, the field of view and the screen contrast was never that brilliant, although it is a step up from the Oculus Rift CV1 that I had before. I've always been on the mission to find the perfect VR headset. So when I saw this was announced, I was aware there was the HP Reverb G1, which a lot of sim users had been using. And back in July, that was about the time I was playing Dirt Rally quite a lot, and I really wanted the optimal picture so I could see into the distance of that game. So when this was announced, I thought if I get it at the reduced pre-order price of $529, this sort of ticks the boxes for a perfect VR sim headset, and that was the aim of me getting this. I knew I have the Index still as my wider field of view, higher refresh rate headset, and this was really to fill the gap of something where the field of view would be smaller but the image quality would be better. So let me tell you what the positives are and what I've experienced so far. So first of all, let me say the image quality on this is brilliant. It's the best image quality that I've seen in any VR headset to date. Keep in mind that I've recently picked up the Quest 2, which I'll talk about later, and yes, this is definitely clearer than the Quest 2. The first game I tried was Onward, and I found this game just ran brilliantly. Keep in mind that this game has been optimized heavily to run on headsets such as the Valve Index, which can go up to 144 Hz. So I believe the graphics engine had no problem rendering this kind of resolution at 90 Hz on the 1080 Ti, which is the graphics card I use currently. When I was playing the game, I found that I was able to see really far into the distance, further and more easily than I could do on any of the headsets that I've tried before. So on the shooting range, for example, I was able to pick off the targets at the far end and see them very clearly, which I've not been able to do on any of the other headsets. I guess the Quest 2 has probably been the closest experience so far in that game, but hands down this has been the clearest image, and I was happy with it, how it performed. In terms of the controllers and the tracking, it was mostly good for Onward, but I did find occasionally it would jump around, which I never really experienced with the Quest 2 controls or the Quest 1 Oculus touch controllers, and obviously not at all with the Valve Index knuckle controllers that has the outside-in tracking. In terms of comfort, I thought the comfort's been really good. It's probably not quite as comfortable as the Index, and I think that's mainly due to the foam being a denser and smaller type foam, and the lack of adjustment made it a little bit cumbersome to get it on and off, and I've sort of missed the adjustment that you have on the Index. But that said, you know, it wasn't too bad, and given that I'm the only person using this, I don't see that as being a big problem. And also I like the fact that the strap can go at full 90 degrees, which makes it good for peering in and out. So overall, the clarity's been really good, the colours and the contrast levels are great, the sound's great from these over-the-ear headphones, and that's probably about as far as all of the positives go for me at the moment. So I'm just going to go on to the negatives now, and I don't want to totally blast this headset because I do think it has potential. I just think for me at the moment with my current setup, it's not the ideal headset, and why I probably won't be using it all that much compared to using the Quest 2. So on to the negatives. So I tried to set this up in my last unboxing video live on stream, and I was having issues which I found was mostly turned out due to the extension cables. I've got an extension cable for the DisplayPort and for the USB port, and I use that for when I'm using the Valve Index or the Rift. I can quickly switch between two different headsets without having to go around the back of the computer. I found in order to get this headset to work, I had to plug both the DisplayPort cable directly into the graphics card and the USB cable directly into the motherboard. So that's something to keep in mind if you're planning to use this headset. You'll probably need to do the same and plug it directly into your computer or graphics card, as the extension leads might not work for you. The other issue that I also had is because with my setup, I run multiple monitors, both for when I'm using my computer for work purposes and also for when I'm streaming, and I found with the multiple monitor setup that was causing an initial setup conflict. So in order to get around this, I basically turned off every other monitor, unplugged them from my graphics card, and then just had my one main monitor active when I did the initial setup. With the other monitors active, I found it had strange behavior doing the setup, and it was making the NVIDIA settings disappear from the system tray, and basically I had to reboot the computer. So I don't think the display drivers or something is quite right with how this works with Windows. I mean, it could be just an isolated case for me, but I did find it as a bit of an issue. So if you're planning to get this and you're a sim racer with triple monitors, for example, you might want to keep this in mind if you're hoping to just plug this in and out. The other interesting thing, because this is the first time I've had a Windows mixed reality headset, is when you do set this up and you plug it in, it seems to create 3 other virtual monitors. I'm not sure what they're for. That's probably for mixed reality somehow, but I think that might be causing some of the conflicts with having multiple monitors running off the one graphics card. So anyway, that was a bit of a pain in the arse to set up, so that was one of the negatives. One other slightly annoying issue is that in order to make this work with Steam, you have to install the Steam VR plugin, which isn't a big deal. Okay, it's just an extra plugin, but what it means is similar to if you've got an Oculus headset and you plan to play Steam VR games, you'll often find that you're going into Oculus Home first, then having to launch Steam in order to launch the Steam game, or you can just launch it directly from Steam. Similarly with this, there's a Microsoft mixed reality portal, and basically this adds another layer for you to open up the game in Steam VR. So just keep that in mind if you're assuming this is like a native Steam VR headset such as the Valve Index. No, it's not. You have to go through another portal, so it just adds another layer of annoyance if you want to play Steam VR games. Next thing I'd talk about is the controllers. Now, overall, these are okay. I mean, they sort of reminded me a bit of the original Oculus Quest 1 or Rift S controllers in terms of their build quality. The grip buttons on the side I found were a little bit small, so if you're holding items for long periods of time, such as a weapon in Onward, then you could easily find your finger sliding off them compared to the much bigger buttons on the side of the Quest and Quest 2 controllers. The buttons aren't capacitive, which isn't an issue for me, but I understand some people that play VR chat, and I don't play VR chat, actually miss the ability to just lightly hold your finger over the button and not have a response. The direction sticks and the size aren't too bad, but I think one of the biggest issues is actually the size of these LED tracking rings. Now, for shooting games, it's not too bad, and I actually found the occlusion worked pretty well in Onward. It's just if I had these too far apart, it'd sometimes lose tracking, then lock back into position again. But if you're trying to play something, I don't know, like Beat Saber or Synth Riders where your hands are getting close together, I'd be concerned about using these just because of the sheer size. You're going to be likely to smash these together. Also, as a negative, I think the tracking technology using light-based is pretty dated now when you compare them to the Quest controllers, in particular the Quest 2 controllers, where the batteries on those seem to last for forever. Now these take 2 AA batteries in each, and I've not run them flat yet, but I did notice they did run from full to about a third power in a matter of 2 or 3 hours. So they do seem to drain the power pretty quickly, and that was expected. I was aware that the power consumption on these isn't that great. But to sum them up, it's nice that they've now got the directional joysticks compared to the original Windows Mixed Reality controllers, but they are pretty dated. So something else I want to mention, and I think Sean from Rendered Reality mentioned this on his first impressions of it, is that this head gasket here, if I just unclip it, I actually think this has been designed a bit too deep, and I think it's maybe been designed to factor in people that may want to use the headset with glasses, and as a result what that means is you're losing quite a lot of the field of view. I've noticed if you push this up really close to your face, right, really squish this in so the sponge is really compressed, you do get a fairly decent field of view, which is probably slightly better than the Quest 2. But with it set to normal settings, with the sort of normal amount of pressure you'd want on your face, I'd actually say the field of view does feel slightly less than the Quest 2, and I think that's really due to the design of this face gasket. So what I would have liked to have seen is possibly a secondary face gasket come in the box for people that don't need glasses, so that their eyes could be sat closer to it, or maybe some aftermarket face plates that have smaller sponges, just so you can get your head fully in there. Also, the little flaps at the bottom here are really good at blocking out the light, but if you're a content creator like I am and you stream, it's actually quite handy sometimes to have that gap underneath, so you can actually peer down to your computer to see OBS to make sure everything's going alright, rather than having to lift the whole thing off to check on your environment. So that's sort of these are minor negatives. But on to some more bigger negatives, and that's really to do with my current setup. So when I ordered this, I originally intended to get a new graphics card, and I'd had my eyes on the 3080 or 3090, knowing that was coming in July at some point. So I didn't really expect to be stuck in a position where I couldn't get a new graphics card, although there has been issues with the pandemic. Devices have been made available, and it's become a real problem now. So I've got both a 3080 and a 3090 on pre-order, which I did from on launch day in September, and I've still had no sign of them. So without those, I've been having to use the current 1080 Ti, and what I've found is that really, depending on the game, such as Onward, that runs great, but for 3 other games that I have tried, which are Dirt Rally 2, which is one of the reasons I got this headset, running this performs really badly at the native resolution. So although the image is really clear, I'm getting about 50 to 60 FPS. Same for Automobilista 2, which I've been playing recently on the Quest 2, and that runs really good at the native resolution. On this, I've had to scale the image down so it'll run decent, but I find with the image scaled down, it actually looks worse than what it does on the Quest 2. But the other game that I streamed the other day was Project Wingman. I'll leave a link for it in the corner up here. I had intended to play this on the G2, but I found for performance reasons I just couldn't get it running well enough for me to play it. So again, I ended up using the Quest 2 to play that game. Now there could be a couple of things here. It isn't just the native resolution and it's trying to push more pixels. What you'll find with some of these games is, take Dirt Rally 2 for instance, there's 2 versions of the game you can run. There's the Oculus SDK version and there's the Steam VR version. So when you launch them in Steam, typically if you're wearing a Oculus headset, it'll ask you which version do you want to run. And what I've found for games like this that do have the Oculus SDK option, they seem to be a lot more optimized and run a lot better than the Steam VR game on the same headset. Anyway, what it means is, in order to play these games on the G2 at the same performance levels, you have to scale it down, and that ends up looking worse than playing the same game on a higher resolution headset that actually looks worse than the Quest 2. The other thing that I should mention is the sweet spot. Now, a few users have said the sweet spot on this is quite small, and I don't think that's necessarily true. I think what it is that the lenses are so clear on this that any image that's slightly away from the center of the lens, you can actually notice the distortion due to the clarity of the image. Now, if you compare that to the lenses on the Quest 2, for instance, I think the cheaper lenses and the ridges on the Fresnel lenses themselves are a bit wider apart. So In other words, I think the distortion is spread over a larger area, and because the whole area is less clear overall, you don't notice the distortion so much from the very clear center to the outer edges. So to sum up, the G2, what do I think? I think it could be a great headset for me. I'm not really going to be able to get the most out of it until I get at least a 3080 or a 3090 graphics card. And I think the same will hold true for any sim racers out there, unless you're willing to scale down the graphics to an extent where the game would probably look better on the Quest 2 anyway. Then I would say, unless you are planning to upgrade your graphics card in the next year or two, or you already have a 3080 or 3090, then I'd say your money's best spent on a Quest 2 for now. Wait a year, and then maybe the Quest 3 will be out, which will have even better resolution than the current G2. Alright, I hope this information helped. Don't forget, if you enjoyed this video, hit the thumbs up, and if you like VR content, consider hitting the subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next one. Alright, bye for now.